Because flywheel training is a specialized form of resistance training, it's useful to go through a few basic concepts when introducing the method to beginners for the first time. We're going to start with 6 specific differences between flywheel training and other forms of resistance training. First, flywheel training load is based off of rotational inertia rather than pounds or kgs lifted. Inertial load is going to be our flywheel equivalent of the weight you put on a barbell or dumbbell with traditional methods. Larger plates are going to have higher rotational inertia and are going to feel heavier and slower when you perform exercises. Smaller plates are going to have a lower inertial load and are going to feel faster and lighter. Second, flywheel training sets tend to involve continuous motion with very little transition time between phases and reps. A priority during your first few sessions is going to be learning to find a rhythm with these exercises with how different it can feel compared to other methods. Third, when we use rotational inertia to generate resistance, it provides a constant challenge across the entire range of motion, rather than having parts of the movement that are going to feel easier or harder. Fourth, flywheel training offers a unique eccentric loading. The momentum you build up during the concentric phase, like the upward phase of a squat, is going to create a resistance on the way back down as the rope pulls you back to the starting position. This unique eccentric loading is a very valuable part of flywheel training, but it can require a little bit of getting used to as a beginner. Fifth, with flywheel training, the resistance on each rep is closely linked to how much force you put in during the concentric phase. We refer to this as user-defined resistance. The harder you pull during the concentric phase, the harder it's going to pull back during the eccentric phase. Finally, unlike most traditional resistance training methods, flywheel sets typically start with 2 or 3 warm-up reps to build some momentum into the flywheel. During these first few reps, your goal is to find a rhythm and gradually build up speed before your main working reps. Before having a beginner start with flywheel training, I'll generally do some demonstrations to show them how a flywheel set looks. A few things I like to emphasize is that continuous motion and the minimal transition time between reps and phases. Another useful thing to do can be to have the beginner actually view the shaft and how the rope winds and unwinds off of it so that they understand the mechanics of the device. We'll also generally start with simpler and more familiar exercises as they build confidence with this new training method. Exercises like squats, rows, and curls can be an easy starting point for many beginners. When needed, adding extra stability can be a confidence builder for some beginners. Something like the T-bar and the Ultimate can be very useful for this purpose, providing extra support as they get used to an exercise like a squat. When it comes to loading, it can be tempting to put the smallest plate you can find on the device. But we generally recommend starting with a larger flywheel that isn't going to spin quite as fast during exercises. If you're interested in learning more about how to introduce flywheel training to beginners, check out some of our other resources in the description.